for a bot no one owns, on a channel no one watches, one man brings you the Bulwark Guide.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a particularly nasty episode of the Center Beacon. In this episode, we are going to cover the Bulwark. Yes, the mysterious, magical Bulwark. Some of you may be suspicious of the Bulwark and exactly what it can do for you, and if you need it, much in the way that I am suspicious of parsnips and why they so closely resemble carrots, yet are not carrots. Now, this video is long. It's like 7 hours long. So just sit back with a nice hot cup of coffee and let the melodic sound of my voice transport you to a little place I like to call War Robots. It's not that long, but it's pretty long. It's like my longest video ever, but I wanted to be thorough. I thought it was important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through several different builds, kind of give you my thoughts on the various builds as I show you some footage. And then later on in the video, I'm going to give you my tips. Actual tips, not stupid things like stay alert and stay out of a weapon's effective range. Not on this show, baby. Actual helpful tips. Everybody does tip videos. I actually hate tip videos. I don't normally ever do them, but I feel like this is a unique robot. Not a lot of people have this thing. I still have yet to see one out there that doesn't belong to like a fellow YouTuber or something, so I'm not even seeing them yet out there in the live servers. But I kind of wanted to prepare you guys to be able to run these things effectively, so I am going to put a couple of tips of what I've noticed tends to work for me running the Bulwark with the various weapons and stuff, and sort of its attributes and things to be aware of, so that when you actually finally get this thing, if you decide that you want it, it's actually going to run really well for you. I think you'll be surprised. So a couple things before we get started here. No, you cannot put Ancils on the Bulwark. Sadly, I tried. You can't put Ancils on this thing, so you're only going to be using the Aegis shield that it comes with. No Ancils. Don't even think about it. Secondly, this is not exactly a meta-changing robot. I mean, I don't know. Give it time. Let the clans go ahead and get a hold of 15 or 20 of these things at a time, and maybe it'll be a giant pain in the ass like the Dash robots were. But this is not exactly like a solo, one bot does it all, you know, ultra deadly robot thing like the Spectre or the Dash bots were. The Bulwark really strikes me as a team-centric bot. This seems like something really great to run as a dedicated member of a squad. And we will be taking a closer look at that as this video lumbers along. So let's take a look at some builds and check out the most relevant aspects of this bot. Buckle up, Beacon Freaks, here we go. So quickly, if you look up to the left of the screen, you're wondering who in the hell is AO. That's me. It's Warlock. I had to change my name midway through filming this because, as you know, I've had some issues with the Shield tablet ever since update 3.9. They basically broke my ability to use my Shield tablet controller, which I love so dearly. Can't use it anymore, so I'm using an emulator temporarily until they fix it, or I go crazy. And the emulator, because of the version of Android it uses, doesn't display all my fancy characters, so AO is just a portion of my normal name, Warlock. So I've changed my name to the Center Beacon. Strangely, I'm sure that makes no sense to any of you, but if you see mixed clips in here, sometimes it says the Center Beacon and sometimes it just says AO. For those of you who are able to look up and to the right, you may notice I've inserted some video here from a test server that I did with the Bulwark, and you'll see the shield cycling back and forth from the physical shield in the front to the energy shield, aka the Aegis. And that's what we want to focus on here in this first part of the video. We want to talk about the most relevant aspect of this bot, and that's the shield. The Aegis shield, if you didn't already know, I'm sure you do, it blocks every form of damage, be it plasma, be it physical, kinetic, what have you. Now, just because it blocks everything doesn't mean you're invulnerable. It does give you a very limited window in which to push where you are difficult to bring down for a few seconds. But as energy shields go, this one has precious few hit points. So you're talking less than 100,000 hit points. It's not a lot. It goes quick, so you need to know when to use it. And employing that shield function at the right time, I think, is what's going to make this a really awesome team-based robot, allowing you to partner up or triple up or whatever it is and retake a beacon that otherwise might not be able to be retaken, because you can jam yourself in there with 210,000 physical hit points plus 2 heavy weapons, and your partners are going to be tucked in there behind you, and they're going to be able to exploit the gap that you create. Kind of like what the Rhino was supposed to do once upon a time with its physical shield morphed into a super version of the Carnage. Let's talk about shield cycling before what's left of my Bulwark here goes to Robot Valhalla. Using the Aegis shield to push into an area, and you're going to absorb some damage, you'll see that shield get reduced down. If you can get to a spot where you have cover, or you can switch over to your physical shield, that's the time to do it so you can recharge the Aegis shield. Also, be mindful when you do switch to that physical shield in the front, it actually covers a very narrow portion of the front of the bot. It is not going to give you a wraparound bumper-like protection from plasma or what have you from energy weapons. It's actually covering a pretty small area on the front of the bot, as evidenced in the clip to your right. Upper right. Again, safety tip, the Aegis shield needs to be deactivated and switched over to the physical shield in order for it to recharge. So if you let that energy shield get crushed down to 0 and just let it sit there and you don't switch to the physical shield, it is not going to regenerate. So hopefully, I think in almost all these clips, I do a pretty good job of rotating that shield or cycling that shield immediately every time it gets reduced, or recharge it every time I get a chance where I don't need it. I'll switch off of it and let it regenerate. You might see a clip here or there where I actually forget to do that. It's just because there's so much stuff going on that you forget to actually go, oh, okay, my Aegis shield is zeroed out. I need to switch it. Otherwise, it's not going to do me any good. It's not like an Ancile. It's not like the Carnage where it's just going to hit that threshold and it's going to start recharging itself. You have to initiate it on your own. And that's really kind of the skill, the discipline, the trick, whatever you want to call it, to running this bot, is cycling the shield back and forth when it's appropriate. Use the energy shield to bust into some place, take a beacon, whatever it is you need to do. And when you're not using it, make sure it's recharging so it's ready for the next time. Okay, so we know how to work the shield. We've exhausted that topic. Now, what about weapons? If you've been paying very close attention, and I'm sure you haven't, I've been running mostly all close range weapons in this video so far. You've seen the EMBER and you've seen some Exodus, because that is the strength of this robot. You're going to see later on in the video, you're going to see some longer range weapons as this video goes on. I'm going to show you all the different builds that I thought were relatively useful, somewhat. Some turned out to be not very useful at all, in my opinion. Maybe you can make them work, I couldn't, but these were, for the most part, the most useful builds, and by far and away, it's not even a close race. Put close range weapons on this bot. It plays to the strength of the special ability. Ideally, you're going to want to run Embers. Exodus was okay. I feel like with only 2 heavy weapons, if they're not Embers or maybe Thunders, I feel like there's not enough rockets in the little rocket pods for the Exodus, but it's okay. You know, again, depending. You're playing it as a team-based robot. If your buddies are picking up the slack, then you can afford to have only 2 Exodusi, something like that, on your robot. Embers, 2 Embers is plenty. That'll melt a lot of stuff pretty quick, so I like that. And then as the video goes on, we're going to see other builds, and it will progress through the rest of the short-range weapon systems up into the very long-range weapon systems, of which I only run a few because they're just, if you're going to do a long-range support bot, this probably isn't the best one. Use a Fury. You're going to want the extra 3rd heavy weapon, so when you hit like a truck, just like God intended. This thing really is a frontline robot. Maybe mid-range. We're going to see some mid-range support action. Maybe yes, maybe no. It'll be up to the player, I think. You know, you can decide for yourself. I'll show you kind of my results. Again, it's not exhaustive. You know, I ran some of the mid-range stuff. Some have worked okay, better than others, and we'll talk about that when we get into those clips. I must say, I do love the sound of those Exoduses firing when that thing goes like doop, 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 doop. I mean, I love it. I'm primitive. I can't help myself. This little clip here sort of illustrates what I was saying earlier about the team-based aspects of this robot. I buddied up here with my little Haiichi partner, Haiichi Kunzuntek, and we are using overlapping shields, and he's kind of covering me. I can sit here and I can recharge my shield. It just really lends itself to good, solid team play. So using the Bulwark and the teamwork concept, we were able to capture the enemy's Charlie beacon. And then what I'm going to do here is put this dude across from me. We're going to put his nards in what we call a vice, and we're going to smash him. Once his nards have been officially turned into jelly, we're getting kind of crude here. This is getting kind of disgusting. I told you this was a nasty episode. We are going to move over into the center and basically just kind of help defend it. I mean, there's not really a huge threat here in this match. Thank goodness I had some pretty good randoms with me, but we're going to defend middle and show you some of the ability of the Bulwark to kind of do that. Following that, we're going to get into some clips, and I'll point it out when we do. We're going to show you the ability, the power, the strength of the Bulwark to actually take middle, to take the heavily embattled center beacons in some of these matches where it's just like, man, it's going to take a friggin' army to get in there and crack that sucker. We're going to take a look at the Bulwark's ability to help your team do that. This dude is kind of like, hey, AO, how about that Aegis shield I've heard so much about? What do you think about turning that thing on? Man, this is 2 examples of teamwork on my behalf in one clip. I don't know whose game footage I'm watching, but sure doesn't look like mine. This AO is a real team player, I tell you what. So we've seen a little bit now about how to use the Bulwark and its special ability to help defend center. Let's take a look at how to use it to take center. Thunder! Thundercats! Ho! That's the wrong part of my childhood to reference here in this part of the video. But it's not Thundercats, but it is the Thunder Bulwark, headed towards the center beacon to do some serious harm. Some of you might recall in this video 2 hours ago when I mentioned that I would offer some tips on how to run this thing. Well, here's a big tip. Mount 2 Thunders on this thing, drive it to middle, use the Aegis shield, and melt some faces. I'm just kidding. That's not my tip. We don't do tips like that. You get tips like that on other channels, not here, baby. We do tips like which type of donut pairs best with a medium roast coffee while you're sitting in your Bulwark, deciding which of its 6 cup holders you're going to use. Here's another good example of using the Bulwark to retake a particularly hostile center beacon. Mount some close range weapons like the Embers or the Thunders in this case on this bad boy. Use your Aegis shield to get that foothold. You're going to stay alive longer than probably most other bots and retake that middle beacon. Be sure you use the Aegis shield, and when it's used up, rotate it out, bring up that physical shield, and remember that that physical shield does not cover very much of the front part of the bot. So if you have somebody shooting you with plasma, you're going to want to orient that physical shield towards the incoming fire just to give yourself as much time as possible to get the beacon and do what you need to do. Redeemer Bulwark, it's okay. Personally, I would rather run the Embers on the Bulwark, but the Redeemers work too. Unfortunately, in this clip, you'll see where I run into some trouble because I get all physically shielded bots, so then it's not so hot, and I didn't really have any support. And I was also taking the middle beacon in a TDM, a team deathmatch match, just to kind of illustrate how you could get into center with this thing. So it wasn't really what I would be doing if I wasn't trying to make a video that helps everyone. So that's why I was driving to middle on a mode that doesn't require me driving to middle. So don't comment and be nasty and be like, you don't know how to play this mode, noob. I know how to play the mode. I don't like to play the mode, but I know how to play it. Quickly, the other useful thing in this short video clip is the fact that I'm getting melted from behind by those scourges. So you can see again that physical shield is very small, very bumper-like in the front of your car. Your front bumper does not protect your side, so bear that in mind. This clip here basically shows the odds in my favor this time. I'm going to go into center, capture the beacon. I've got my physical shield activated, and the enemies have plasma, and I have Redeemers. They're squishy, I'm not, so it's going to work out pretty good for me in this clip. You'll see I pay pretty close attention to what my Aegis shield is doing. I don't really need it, so it's off and regenerating, and then as soon as it's full, I immediately activate it again, so I have protection from all of the little nasties out there that want to do me harm. These guys are kind of screwed, as you can see. I wedged myself up in their grill pretty good here. If I had Embers, I probably would have done a little bit more damage. I'm able to take out a couple, 1 or 2, neutralize another one, and it takes a lot of them before they finally are able to knock me out of here. But you can see, not only did I get the middle, but I also managed to neutralize their spawn beacon. So I think I've demonstrated most of the close range setups here for the Bulwark. Let's switch gears and take a look at some mid-range setups. So right off the bat, initial impressions, I don't like mid-range setups for this bot. As I said in the first part of the video dealing with close-range weapons, I really think this thing lends itself to weapons that you can use to close the distance with the enemy, use the shield, use the physical shield to your advantage, and destroy them. Mid-range setups like the ZEUS's, they just don't do enough damage to warrant it. You're better off, if you're going to play a support bot like that, you're better off with a Fury or something, and that way at least you hit harder when able. This thing, ultimately, with 600 meters of range, 500 meters of range, depending on the weapon, you're going to get closed with. Somebody's going to come in, and even with that amazing Aegis shield and then the physical shield, they're going to take you down eventually. That said, I will go through several mid-range setups. Again, these are the weapons that I thought would be most effective. Some turned out not to be very effective at all, but these are the ones that I thought would be most effective in each category. I did it for close range, I'm doing it for medium range, and then I'll do it for long range towards the end of the video. But ultimately, you decide for yourself. Maybe you can make some of these things play better than I can. can, but I did not care for the mid-range setups, particularly the ZEUS's. It was pretty terrible. So if I was going to run something mid-range, I would probably choose the Dragoons, because obviously the Dragoons give you the ability to hang back and support your team like you're going to see in this initial Dragoon clip, but they also offer the ability to close the distance with the enemy and really, put some hate on them, because you don't necessarily lose anything. Whether you're at 0 or 600, you're doing the same damage. It's one of the few medium-range weapons that lends itself to the design of the robot, to the robot's special ability. You can use the Aegis shield to get in close. The Dragoons are still going to give you pretty good damage. I wasn't able to test the Avengers on these things. I didn't have them at the time, so I couldn't test them, but the Avengers would be another one where you could potentially use the shield to close the gap, and then you're gaining DPS as you close with the enemy, and more of your bullets are actually hitting the enemy. So if you're determined to run mid-range with this thing, the Avenger may be an option. I'll let you all know when I finally get the thing. If you guys want to see it, let me know in the comments, but I'll try to run Avengers on this thing and just kind of see how they do. But something tells me Embers are going to be the way to go on this thing. Chimeras are in the same kind of category. I don't think I would bother with them on the Bulwark, only running 2 of them. I would recommend you run those on your Fury if that's what you're looking to do. This next clip simply demonstrates the ability of the Dragoons on the Bulwark. You've closed the distance now, you've overrun the middle of the map, and now you're kind of getting into enemy territory, and the Dragoons are still kind of helping you out. You're still getting pretty good effects on the enemy because, again, you're not losing anything with the way that the Dragoon weapon system works on the Bulwark. Obviously, if you're running trebuchets or something wonky like that on this, it's not going to do you any favors when you get close, really. You're going to be kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, which is why I didn't run them. But I do run some long-range builds here towards the end of the video, so be sure to check those out. Something to make note of here, too, and I apologize for it, but my connection is super poopy right now. Super poop connection, so it's particularly noticeable when I use the Dragoons. You'll kind of see me shoot people, and then they kind of die later. It's due to the latency. I have horrible latency right now, so I apologize for that. Can't really help it at the moment, but if you see that, that's what's going on. So how that relates to you is your Dragoons on your Bulwark are going to be a little bit more effective than mine are currently because of my super poop connection. Super poop. Tempests. I love the weapon. I hate this build. This is one that I threw in there. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I thought it would be better than what it was. I couldn't really get it to work for me too terribly well. So this clip kind of sucks, frankly. There's not a whole lot I can do in this particular mode because all those damn shield wall things are up in my way, and the limited magazine capacity on the Tempest is just a killer, especially when you're only running 2 of them on the Bulwark. 5 out of 6 dentists do not recommend. Let's take a look at the Flux now. Flux. It sounds dirty, but it's not. This is really the only true long-range weapon I'm featuring in this video because, as I mentioned earlier, the trebuchets, I don't see those as being terribly effective. Only having 2 of them, if you want to hang back, you might as well have 3 of them on the Fury. The Fluxes, however, you get the range. They do decent damage, even just as a pair on the Bulwark. And if needed, and this is what I like, is the utility. You can close with the enemy, as you'll see in some of these clips coming up, where you kind of get forced into it, or maybe the match is really going well, and if you need to move forward, you can. Like the Dragoons, it's not going to really make a difference whether you're at 5 meters or 500 or 1100 or whatever the max effective range is. And just as an admin note here, administrative notes on this video has everything. I might as well have some admin notes. I did not run things like the Nashorn and the Kangday, and as you might be aware, they recently had their range reduced. At least I believe the Kangday did. It's only 800 meters now. It fires faster, but I still don't really see it being much of a factor. Now, sit down because I'm going to shock you, and I don't want you to fall over and bump your head, but I actually have fully maxed Kangdays, if you can even friggin' believe that. Yes, I know I'm that guy with fully maxed Kangdays. I'm gonna run them. If you want to see them, let me know, but I will run them and at least mention somewhere, maybe on the social medias, how I find them to be post update 4.0. Fully maxed Kangdays. What was I thinking? Honestly, it's like having fully maxed Zeniths, or even worse, Noricums. I hate Noricums. What if I did more videos where I talked like this? Let me know in the comments below. As this clip plays out of me long-range fluxing some people and myself getting smashed in this match, let's talk about something else, and that's how to take it down. How to take the Bulwark down. In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And the Bulwark does indeed bleed. What I've seen used against my Bulwark most effectively is my wife telling me to get off that damn robot game. Seriously though, it's splash. I think it's kind of obvious. You splash down that Aegis shield and then you pretty much just kind of have a regular robot. Now granted, you still have that physical shield, which is why I recommend the splash, because if you're trying to take it down, you can take the Aegis shield down with plasma. You know, you can reduce it with any form of damage, but it's going to stop everything. But I find that splashing down the shield and getting to the meaty underbits beneath the shield is really the way to go. You can help your buddies, you can help your squad reduce the energy shield, the Aegis shield, with whatever you want, because if you recall what I told you earlier in the video, the Aegis shield does not automatically recharge. It does not hit a threshold and start recharging like an Ancile, a Carnage, a Haiichi, what have you. So reduce it with whatever you want, but once you get through the shield, if it's ballistic or if it's energy, you're just going to start running into that physical shield too. So most effectively, I've found splash takes it down. Get that shield down however you can, and then start hitting the robot itself. It has a huge cross section. Start hitting the robot itself with splash damage. So Orc Inspector, Exodus, insert robot here, whatever it is that you want to do that's running a lot of splash damage, that's going to be the way to get to this thing. Kind of like the 3 licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. If any of you remember that, that's the way to get to the center of the Bulwark. Not licking it, because that would be weird, but shooting it with lots of rockets. You can't see it right now, but I'm talking with my hands a lot. I'm not really sure what's going on. So that said, that's going to about wrap it up for discussing the different weapons you can run on the Bulwark, how the shield works. I try to make this video as thorough as possible. I felt I owed you guys as complete an analysis as I could, given that this bot is so rare. If you're going to plunk down 10,000 components, you might want as much information as possible, so that's what I was kind of going for here. If you like these more in-depth videos, let me know in the comments. If not, I can certainly do shorter ones that just cover the basics, but I kind of feel like you're already getting that on other channels, but let me know which you prefer. And now, the moment all of the clickbait junkies have been waiting for, my Bulwark tips. Boy, I gotta tell you, there's nothing like a great set of tips in an online video. We talked about this extensively. You need to know when to cycle your Aegis shield. You gotta remember to rock that bad boy back and forth between the energy shield and the physical shield, because it does not recharge on its own. You have to deactivate it. Try to use your Aegis shield tactically as much as possible. Try to save it up for when your team needs to make an offensive push or even perhaps a defensive stand. Communicate with your squad mates and make that push together as a team, or that stand, but do it together as a team, and you'll find that that shield will really help you get the mission accomplished. Your physical shield, when you switch off of the Aegis energy shield, your physical shield offers very limited protection in terms of the physical area it covers on the front of the robot. It's a lot like a small car's bumper. It kind of only protects the chest area of the robot. You can shoot around it, you can shoot under it. Anywhere where it's not physically present, damage can be done. The Bulwark is fairly tall as robots go, kind of like a Natasha or something. It can kind of get up over top of cover, barriers, obstacles, what have you. Try to experiment, run around on some of these maps with some of these buildings and structures and see what you can shoot over top of. I found a couple that really allow me to get my weapons right over top of the building and shoot right over top without being touched at all by incoming fire. Finally, the Bulwark is obviously not indestructible. That Aegis shield will go quick. As I mentioned in the video earlier, it doesn't necessarily have a whole ton of hit points. It goes fast, so use it wisely. That is it, you savages. That is about everything I have on the Bulwark. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments, and I won't add it into the video because that's a major pain in the ass, but maybe I'll make a note or something. But if I missed anything egregious, outstanding, let me know. But I think I covered almost everything. Like I said earlier in the video, I will run this thing with a couple of the newer weapons that have come out since I recorded this originally, just to kind of see, hey, are Avengers good? You know, would I actually ever want to mount a Kang Day on this thing? Probably not, but who knows? So again, longer video, detailed video. Let me know what you think. Do you like it? Tell me in the comments. Please remember to thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment, hate, rate, appreciate. Don't hate. I'm just kidding about that one. I get enough hate as it is. And as always, I will see you next time at the Center Beacon.